G'day guys, what's up? My name is Zach. I hope you're all having an absolutely incredible day and welcome back to yet another video. I'm actually doing this before I do my Q&A video. I don't have much time at the moment, so I'm having to do like stuff. I mean, it's almost midnight at the moment, which is crazy. But yeah, I really wanted to do this for you guys. Hopefully edit it all before maybe 1 AM and then hopefully chuck it up within the next 3 or 4 days. So I was gonna say be keen to check out this video, but it's already on for you guys, so. But anyway, today I'm going to teach you guys how to measure out the perfect fitment for your car. So this method, I'm actually going to be using spaces to get my perfect offset. It's all going to be coming in my grand scheme of things, hopefully before the end of July. So yeah, anyway, let's get straight into it. So firstly, what we're going to need is we're going to need a jack, which I only have the handle for at the moment, but this is my big jack down here, you can't see it. We're going to also need a tape measure. And also what we're going to need is a plank of wood that basically will sit up against the rim and not go beyond this point here. We want to be able to measure the actual point on the wood to where it is on here. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to cut down around about here, so I'm quickly going to mark that off with my really dodgy pen. Mark that off about here. And so now I'm going to have to cut that plank of wood straight across there, so that way I can measure the rim and it still sits underneath this. If your wheels have too negative of an offset, you don't have to cut this wood at all. So all you have to do is pretty much hold it against the wood and you'll be measuring straight towards the guard. Now the things you could do to fix your offset on your wheels, if the offset is too positive, which means the wheel sits in too far from the guard, what you could do is you could possibly get spacers. Now please do keep in mind these spacers are illegal and they will be very dangerous unless you get the correct ones. The ones you want, ones that are made for the center bore of your car, as well as the ones that follow the stud pattern on your car also. If your wheels have too negative of an offset, or the wheels are too aggressive and they stick out from the guard and you have too much poke, what you could possibly do is measure this and then actually use that measurement to work out how much of the back of the wheel you need to mill down. So this won't be able to be done by you. You'll have to take it to an actual aluminium milling shop or a wheel company or something like that, and they'll actually mill off the offset off the back of your hub. That will make your offset more positive. So that'll bring the wheel, or sort of suck it into the bottom of the car. So anyway, what we're going to do right now is we're going to cut up our piece of wood and I will see you guys as soon as I do that. This could perhaps be the world's worst saw I've ever seen, but it's going to have to do. Alright guys, so I made up this little diagram to make it easier for you guys to all understand what we're going to be doing today. Today we're going to be measuring the left front, left rear and right rear wheels. And so what we're going to be measuring basically is the gap between the edge of the wheel and the outside of the guard. So it could be either the edge of the wheel here, in comparison to the right side of the guard, doesn't really matter. It could be positive or negative offset. What we're going to be doing is measuring the wheel gap from the wheel to the car. Now this can go off either the rim or the tire depending on what is the widest on your car. So what I've done here is I put a C and an S for every single one of these. How are we going to be measuring C? So what C means is the closest. So this is the closest we can possibly get the wheel or the tire to the guard without it rubbing. So what we're going to be doing is compressing the suspension and making it make it act like it's actually within shock travel, so that way we can actually compress it and we'll find out what exactly is the closest to the guard. And then what we're going to be doing also is just getting our S, which is our standard height, and we're just going to be finding out what is the car's wheel gap within the standard height. So because wheels actually camber in when they are compressed, we don't know whether it will be when the suspension is under compression or whether the suspension is under standard height as to whether we'll actually have the closest fitment. Of course, you can have the closest fitment when it's the standard height, but as soon as it's compressed, it starts rubbing. You don't want that. So what we're going to be doing is getting the standard height and also the closest height also the closest space we possibly can between the wheel and the guard, and we're going to be measuring that, writing that down so we can properly order our spaces or mill our wheel down. So I thought a better way of explaining this in comparison to the camber actually coming in when the car is compressed, is I will stand this up at exactly level. So the bottom of this is exactly level. What we're going to be doing is putting it up to the bottom of the tire And so that's actually touching the rim and flat ground. And as you can see, I have about a finger width of gap there. Now that equates to probably maybe 1 or 2 negative degrees of camber. And that comes naturally when you lower your car. It'd be even worse from the front, most likely, in my car. So when you actually compress suspension more and more, your wheels will naturally camber up and into the guard. So in actual fact, when you're hitting a bump, let's say when you're going maybe 100 k's an hour, your rim could fully compress up maybe towards your guard, and that would mean that your tire gap could go from this to this simply because your wheel actually comes up and cambers in. So as I was saying before, what we want to do is make sure that when the tire cambers in, or when the wheel cambers in, that you're not going to be grabbing your guard right here and pulling it up, because that would be very bad, because you would completely damage your fenders. Alright, so what we're going to be doing now is grabbing our new shortened length of wood. And as you can see, mine perfectly fits all the way between there and there. Now I'm going to be using the exact flat face of this. I did mess up the other side of it because I just got lazy and bored and I just snapped it in half, so I ended up wrecking that. But we don't need the bottom of it. We just want to make sure that this up here is a right angle. That'll just give us our optimal measurement that we want. So what we want to do now is we want to grab that there, and as you can see, this plank of wood is exactly touching the bottom and the top of my rim, which is the widest part of my wheel. Now, so what that means is this plank of wood will now become, as I said before, possibly -1, -2 degrees of camber. So what we're going to be doing now is simply raising the plank of wood up. And so as you can see now, we've actually found that this plank of wood here will actually sink into the guard, which means we have a 2 positive offset on our wheels. So what we now need to do is measure the outside of this plank of wood to the inside of this guard liner here, and that will give us our measurement to how far out we can have our spaces. Now for me, what I think I'll just put out there right now, my perfect fitment at the moment could be anything. So what you guys could think of as perfect fitment is maybe 1 centimeter or 2 centimeters of poke, which is obviously a little bit extravagant. However, my perfect fitment, what it actually is when the outside of the rim reaches the outside of the guard and it just sits flat straight down. That is my ultimate perfect fitment. So I'm going to actually measure for that right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure the inside of this plank of wood all the way to the outside of the guard here. Alright, so if you guys can see right now, I've gone from the outside of the plank of wood, which represents the outside face of our wheel, to the outside of my guard, which is this notch right here. So if we measure that right now, if we measure how far that notch is from the outside of our plank of wood into the actual notch itself, it's roughly going to be about, let's get a quick measurement here. So hopefully you guys can see the mils on my tape measure right there. It's actually 73 millimeters along, this plank of wood, and the notch right there reaches 6.2 millimeters. So that would mean an 11 mil spacer would sit my wheels flush against the guard. So what we're going to be doing now is jacking up the other side of the car and actually compress this right here to see how close we can get it to the actual rim itself. I thought I might just be able to jack up this wheel of the car and make it go up, but that actually raises the entire car itself. So what we want to do is I want to raise up the opposite side of the car, and that'll compress this side of the car down as all the weight will be over this wheel. So that way we can find out exactly how close the wheel can get to the guard. Because we are checking the right rear suspension on the car at the moment, what we're going to want to do is jack up the left front of the car. So let's do that right now. Okay, so now this wheel here is completely off the ground. As you can see, I can spin it freely. This means that all the weight possible is over that back. So any sort of flex or anything that this car is going to endure, possibly coming off a driveway or anything, where the wheel is actually off the ground, means that all the flex in the chassis and all the weight is over that back wheel, which means this will be the closest our wheel will get to the guard itself. Let's head around the back and have a look. Okay, so compared to the last shot, you can actually see how much different the wheel sits against the guard right now. Okay, so now what we're going to do, because the suspension is completely compressed as to where we're probably going to be at when we're regularly driving, we're going to measure the closest part of the tyre to the outside of the guard, and that right there, and that's roughly about 29 millimeters. So we're going to have no issues whatsoever putting a 10 mil spacer on this car. Alright, so because we've actually lifted up this side of the car, that means that all these suspension components right here are going to be at their maximum height. They're not going to be at their resting rate. So you could take it for a lap around the block, or you could just jump. Because it is about 1 PM at night at the moment, I'm not going to wake up all the neighbours, so I'm just going to quickly bounce on the side of the car without scratching it. I don't know whether you guys can see that right now, but that's sitting a tiny little bit lower, which will make our measurements that a little bit more accurate. Okay, so now you guys are seeing what we've done at the back. We've come around to the front wheels. Okay, so I've already completed the other back wheels, so now it's time to get to the front. So we're going to be doing the exact same thing to the front wheels as what we did to the back. So what we're going to do here is grab our wooden plank, put it up to the side of the wheel here, and raise it up to the top of the guard. Alright, now we're going to grab our marker again, and we're going to mark off on the wood exactly where the wheel sits against the outside of the guard. Alright, so as you can see, don't know whether you guys can see, but my little notch is right there. I'll quickly measure it from the outside of the wood. Okay, so this one here is about 9mm. Now already on this car, I had to run some 5mm slip-on spacers to actually clear the inside control arm. So that would mean that I have 14mm of spacer here. So what I might do is go out to about 15mm, just to make that tire poke about a mil extra. That'll just give me a nice little perfect fitment. That'll just give me a nice little poke just in case I do get any of my measurements wrong. There is always some way that the measurements can go wrong, but I'm just going to put an extra mil on. That is if when the wheels go up and they camber in, that it won't actually touch the inside of the fender. Alright, so let's jack up the rear right so we can decrease the suspension on the front left. Okay, so as you can see now, this wheel is completely off the ground. That means that all the weight and all the flex that this car will have is now in the front left. So let's go around the front and have a look. Okay, so as you can see now, the suspension in the front left is completely at its lowest form under all the weight and all the flex of the chassis. So now what we're going to do is measure the top of the tyre, which is the closest thing to the guard, and we have roughly about 3.5 centimeters. So we will have no issues with putting a 15mm spacer on this car. That means the wheel will actually camber in, and that way we won't actually have our wheel or our rim hitting the guard at all. Alrighty, so once we've got all our calculations correct, we've found out that on my particular car with my particular wheels and my particular offset, remember this is not going to be a universal measurement at all, this is just my car. Every single person's car is going to be different, and I can assure you that. We found with my car at the moment that for me to have my rims directly flush against the fender, I'm going to have to run an 11mm spacer at the rear and a 9mm spacer at the front, along with my 5mm, so that would make it roughly about 14mm. So now also keep in mind that when your suspension is fully compressed, that it does get closer. If your measurement between your compressed suspension is actually smaller than the size that you want to make your wheel poke out a little bit more, that would mean that you will not be able to run that spacer. I know, I'm sorry, I'm the master of continuity, I know. But I thought I'd take the opportunity to go have a shower while my camera battery died, so I apologize. But anyway, as I was saying, if the closest spot between your wheel and your guard is smaller than the spacer that you want to use, it's not going to work. This would mean that when your spring compresses and when your car bounces on a bump on the road, you will be just, yeah, it won't work. You'll be rubbing and scraping absolutely everywhere. You put your tires in danger, you put your guards in danger, you put your lighters in danger, and that is bad. Now, another one. This is the biggest thing. Do not ever buy slip-on spacers that aren't hub-centric at all. Please do not do that. I've been running a 5mm slip-on for a while and that has been perfect, but I would not run anything bigger than a 5mm slip-on without being bolt-on. And also make sure that it is hub-centric. So hub-centric means that the inside of the spacer will actually adapt to the hub. This means that your hub will be taking all of the weight and not your wheel studs. Your wheel studs taking the weight will it's not a good day. Please, it's not a good day. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to head onto the computer and I'm going to quickly search up Ford FG Falcon center bore size. Now the center bore is actually just the size of the hub, the center circle thing that adapts to the hub of the wheel. Right, so I bet you this is going to take less than 2 minutes for me. Let's do it. Alright, so I've already found it. It'll probably take about 30 seconds on the internet. I'm going to link you guys to this website right here that I use to get my center bore size. Now it should work for most cars. Obviously the more modified cars you see out there will probably have a lot more forums and stuff like that. like this website, but it's pretty easy to find. It'll take you probably like maybe 30 seconds to 5 minutes to find your center bore size. Now make sure that you get a hub-centric spacer that matches your center bore size. Otherwise, it's going to be making your wheels all wobbly. Your wheel won't actually sit centered on the hub, and you know how much even 20 grams on an unbalanced wheel can do. Have a small think about if your wheel was maybe like 2 millimeters off to the side. It'll be basically like rolling on an oval wheel. So if you guys can see on the screen, you probably won't be able to see, but if we go right here, this is Ford Falcon 2009 4-litre 6-cylinder basically. Exactly my car's specs, alright? So we're going to be looking at 2008, my car's year. Right, now we're going to be looking for, it has everything like the power, the engine size, wheel fasteners, thread size, everything like that. So now we're going to be looking at the center bore size, which is right here for me. Now that says 73.1 millimeters. So now if we put that all together with the center bore size and the size that I want my wheels to be spaced out, and also with my lug pattern, I'm going to be searching up on eBay. Or make sure you don't get cheap eBay stuff, please just don't do that. Make sure you actually get quality stuff, maybe from Just Jack and stuff like that. As I said before, wheel spacers are completely illegal, and I would highly, if you can avoid it at any cost, get new wheels, do anything. Do not run these, as they are unsafe and they are illegal. And if you do get caught with them, it will be a defect, and you also could have the possibility of losing out on your insurance if you do damage your car with these on. These spacers for me are only going to be used for shows, stuff like that, like All Ford Day just coming up. So basically, I'm not going to be running on the road. I do use this car as a daily. I'm not going to be running these spacers every single day on my car. Oh, and as I said, they are illegal. So now adding in every single piece that we've found in our puzzle to try and get the perfect offset in our wheels, what we're going to be looking at for my car in particular is a 73.1 millimeter center bore size, 15 millimeter and 20 millimeter 114.3 by 5 lug pattern hub-centric spacer. That is a lot to get in, but that is what you need to find. And if you do not find it, don't settle for second best. Make sure you get them custom made. There are lots of places online that will get them custom made for you. So you just gotta search around, find the place that does it. And as I said, don't cheap out. Don't just get the cheapest thing you can find, because it's probably gonna be really crap quality. Make sure you get a decent one. I would probably recommend looking around $75 and up for your spacers, because you know you can't settle for cheap, you have to settle for quality. Okay guys, so I hope I helped you find your perfect offset that you want with your old wheels without getting brand new ones. I hope I saved you a little bit of money. Make sure, as I said before, make sure if you could do anything but buy these things, just do it. I'm probably going to do it eventually with brand new wheels once I get some more money behind me, but at the moment I just want these for shows and stuff like that. So make sure you're being very responsible and very precise when you're measuring these up, as you do not want to make a mistake. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment in the comment section down below whether I helped you out with this right here. And I'll see you guys in the next vlog. And there's going to be some very, 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 very cool stuff coming soon. Stay tuned.